Hello and welcome back to 5-Minute Theology, where we try and think about a key term in Christian faith in 5 minutes or less. Today I'm going to try and talk about a concept that we use a lot and perhaps we don't always define or describe, and that's the concept of holiness. What do we mean when we talk about something being holy? What do we mean when we talk about the holiness of God? So, I've got my phone timer ready. Let's see if we can talk about holiness in 5 minutes or less. Holiness, or holy, is one of the most common terms that the Bible uses to describe God. It's one of the most common things it asks of Christians, that we should be holy as God is holy. And of course, Jesus taught us to pray every day, hallowed or holy be your name, praying that God's name or his reputation, his nature, would be holy. What actually is holiness? The words the Bible uses for it carry something of a sense of set-apartness, holiness, sacredness, or separateness, according to my Bible dictionary, which isn't very helpful for understanding what it means. But I think holiness breaks down into two ideas. The first is the idea of being set apart for special use. You might see a door in a hospital that says emergency use only, or an area that's set aside for emergency vehicles. It's just for their use, not for any other use. In the same way, things in the Bible are spoken of as being holy, meaning they're set apart for the use of God, whether that be holy objects or holy people or holy spaces. Holiness carries that sense of being set apart. Consecrated is an English word that expresses it. But things that are set apart for God's use become holy because they partake of God's own holiness, because he is holy. The people or the things dedicated to him are special, are set apart, are holy. And this takes us to the second sense of holy, which is the idea of cleanliness. Now, perhaps we're most familiar with this in terms of the need to be sterile in a hospital or to be clean. In these days of COVID infection, we're all familiar with the idea of keeping ourselves uncontaminated. And if you go into a hospital operating room, you have to take off your normal clothes in case they're dirty and put on clean clothes. You have to wash your hands to make sure your hands are clean, and so on and so forth. Because the area is sterile, it is clean. You mustn't bring into it anything that could carry with it dirt or infection. And in the same way, God's holiness is being morally clean. It's not having any element of sin, of evil, of uncleanness. One of the New Testament's favourite words for holy is katharos, pure. It's the word from which we get the name Catherine. And it has the idea of not being contaminated by anything that is wrong. When they built the temple in the Old Testament, I don't know if you can see this floor plan, but the temple was essentially lots of concentric boxes. And it got holier as you went in. So the outermost box was the court of the Gentiles, or the court of the women, and anyone could go in there. And then the court of the Israelites was only for Israelite Jewish men, and not for anyone who was crippled or ceremonially unclean. And you became unclean by doing something wrong or touching something unclean, especially things associated with death, like a dead body. Then you had the court of the priests. Only the priests went in there. You had the holy place, the sanctuary, and then you had the final box, the most holy place. And that was where God was said to dwell. Only the high priest could go in there once a year on the Day of Atonement, and only carrying the blood of a sacrifice, a sacrificial goat in this case, and bull. And that was because blood covered over sin. Shed blood paid the price for sin. And shed blood was necessary to make something clean, to make it holy, so that it could be brought into that sterile, clean, holy place, into the presence of God. The great problem of the Bible is that God, who is holy, who is clean, wants to be with people who are unclean. So how do you bring something that is dirty into a sterile zone, into a clean place? You have to wash it. You have to make it clean. You have to get rid of the dirt. For people to come to God, they must be washed, made clean. The dirt of sin and evil must be washed away. And that is done by shed blood, the blood of sacrifice. For us, not a sacrificial goat, but one who we speak of as the Lamb of God. Jesus' blood washes us clean so we can come to the presence of a holy God. We are 5 minutes exactly. I hope that was a start to the idea of holiness. Obviously there is far more to say, and we'll think about that a little more as we come to some other key ideas in 5-minute theology. But that's all for now on holiness. God be with you.